Hekal, or Ezekiel, chapters 40 and 41. In the 25th year of our exile at Rosh Hashanah, on the 10th of the new moon in the 14th year after the city was stricken, on that same day the hand of Yehovah came upon me, and he brought me there. In visions of Elohim, he brought me into the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain, and upon it toward the south was the structure of a city. So he brought me there, and look, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze, and a line of flax and a measuring rod were in his hand, and he stood in the gateway. And the man said to me, Son of man, see with your eyes and hear with your ears, and set your heart on all that I'm showing you, for you were brought here in order to show them to you. Declare it to the house of Israel all that you are seeing. And look, a wall around the outside of the house, and in a man's hand a measuring rod 6 cubits long, each being a cubit and a handbreadth. And he measured the width of the wall structure, 1 rod, and the height of 1 rod. And he came to the gate facing east, and he went up its stairs and measured the threshold of the gate, 1 rod wide, and the other threshold 1 rod wide. And the little room, 1 rod long and 1 rod wide, and between the little rooms a space of 5 cubits. And the threshold of the gate inwards from the porch of the gate was 1 rod. Then he measured the porch of the inside gate, 1 rod, and he measured the porch of the gate, 8 cubits, and its posts, 2 cubits, and the porch of the gate was on the inside. And the little rooms at the east gate, 3 on one side and 3 on the other, all 3 of them the same size. And posts were of the same size on this side and that side. And he measured the width of the entrance of the gate, 10 cubits, and the length of the gate, 13 cubits. And the border in front of the little rooms, 1 cubit on this side and 1 cubit on that side. And the gate room was 6 cubits on this side and 6 cubits on that side. And he measured the gate from the roof of one little room to the roof of the other. The width was 25 cubits, door to door. And he measured the posts 60 cubits high, even to the post of the courtyard all around the gate. And from the front of the entrance gate to the front of the porch of the inner gate was 50 cubits. And there were narrowed window frames in the little rooms and to their posts at the inside of the gate all around, and for the porches too. And there were windows all around on the inside, and on each post were palm trees. And he brought me into the outer courtyard. And look, rooms and a pavement made all around the courtyard, 30 rooms on the pavement. And the pavement was by the side of the gates, equal to the length of the gates, the lower pavement. And he measured the width from the front of the lower gate to the front of the inner courtyard on the outside, 100 cubits toward the east and the north. And the gate of the outer courtyard facing north, he measured its length and width. And its little rooms, 3 on this side and 3 on that side, its posts and its porches had the same measurement as the first gate. Its length was 50 cubits and its width 25 cubits. And its windows and its porches and its palm trees had the same measurements as the gate facing east. And they went up to it by 7 steps. And its porch was in front of it. And the gate of the inner courtyard was opposite the gate of the northern gate and at the eastern gate. And he measured from gate to gate, 100 cubits. And he took me to the south, and look, a gate towards the south, and he measured its posts and porches according to these measurements. And windows were in it, and its porches all around like those windows. Its length was 50 cubits, and its width 25 cubits. And 7 steps led up to it, and its porch was in front of them, and it had palm trees on its posts, one on this side and one on that side. And the inner courtyard had a gate toward the south, and he measured from gate to gate toward the south 100 cubits. And he brought me to the inner courtyard through the south gate, and he measured the southern gate according to these measurements. And its little rooms and its posts and its porches were according to these measurements. And windows were in it and in its porches all around, 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. And there were porches all around, 25 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. And its porches were toward the outer courtyard, and palm trees were on its posts, and 8 steps led up to it. And he brought me into the inner courtyard toward the east, and he measured the gate according to these measurements, and its little rooms and its posts and its porches were according to these measurements. And windows were in it, and its porches all around, 50 cubits long and 25 cubits wide. And its porches were toward the outer courtyard, and palm trees were on its posts, on this side and on that side, and 8 steps led up to it. And he brought me to the north gate, and he measured it according to these measurements, its little rooms, its posts, its porches, and it had windows all around, and its length was 50 cubits, and its width 25 cubits. And its posts were toward the outer courtyard, and palm trees were on its posts on this side and on that side, and 8 steps led up to it. And there was a room with its entrance by the posts of the gate, where they washed the ascending offering. And in the porch of the gate were 2 tables on this side and 2 tables on that side, on which to slay the ascending offering and the sin offering and the guilt offering. And on the outer side, as one went up to the entrance of the north gate, were 2 tables. And on the other side of the porch of the gate were 2 tables. 4 tables were on this side and 4 tables on that side by the side of the gate, 8 tables on which they slew. And there were 4 tables of hewn stone for the ascending offering, 1 cubit and a half long, 1 cubit and a half wide, and 1 cubit high. On these they placed the instruments with which they slew the ascending offering and the slaughterings. And the double hooks, a handbreadth wide, were fastened all around, and on the tables was the flesh of the offerings. And on the outside of the inner gate were the rooms for the singers in the inner courtyard, one at the side of the north gate and facing south, and the other at the side of the south gate facing north. And he said to me, "This room facing south is for the priests who guard the duty of the house, and the room facing north is for the priests who guard the duty of the slaughter place. They are the sons of Zadok from the sons of Levi, who come near to Yahweh to serve him." And he measured the courtyard, 100 cubits long and 100 cubits wide, a square, and the slaughter place was in front of the house. And he brought me to the porch of the house and measured the doorposts of the porch, 5 cubits on this side and 5 cubits on that side. And the width of the gate was 3 cubits on this side and 3 cubits on that side. The length of the porch was 20 cubits, and the width 11 cubits. And by the steps which led up to it, there were columns by the doorposts, one on this side and one on that side. Chapter 41. And he brought me into the Hekal, and he measured the doorposts, 6 cubits wide on one side and 6 cubits wide on the other side, the width of the tent. And at the entrance was 10 cubits wide, and the side walls of the entrance were 5 cubits on this side and 5 cubits on the other side. And he measured its length, 40 cubits, and 20 cubits wide. And he went inside and measured the doorposts, 2 cubits, and the entrance 6 cubits high, and the width of the entrance 7 cubits. And he measured the length 20 cubits, and the width 20 cubits to the front of the Hekal. And he said to me, "This is the most set apart place." And he measured the wall of the house 6 cubits, and the width of each side room all around the house was 4 cubits on every side. And the side rooms were on 3 levels, one above the other, 30 rooms on each level. They rested on ledges, which were for the side rooms all around, to be supported but not fastened to the wall of the house. And there was a broadening and a winding upwards for the side rooms, for the winding around the house went up like steps, and the width of the structure increased as one went up from the lowest level to the highest by way of the middle one. And I saw height all around the house, the foundation of the side rooms, a rod's length of 6 cubits. The thickness of the outer wall of the side rooms was 5 cubits, and that which was left between the side rooms of the house and the rooms was a width of 20 cubits all around the house on every side. And the door of the side room was toward the open space, one door toward the north, another door toward the south, and the width of the place of the open space was 5 cubits all around. And the building that was in front of the separate place at the side toward the west was 70 cubits wide, and the wall of the building was 5 cubits thick all around, and its length 90 cubits. Then he measured the house, 100 cubits long, and the separate place with the building and its walls were 100 cubits long, and the width of the front of the house and of the separate place eastward was 100 cubits. And he measured the length of the building to the front of the separate place behind it, and its galleries on one side and on the other side, 100 cubits, as well as the inner Hekal and the porches of the courtyard. The doorposts and the narrowed window frames and the galleries all around, their 3 levels opposite the threshold, were paneled with wood from the ground to the windows, and the windows were covered from the space above the door even to the inner house, as well as the outside and on every wall all around, inside and outside, by measure. And it was made with cherubim and palm trees, and a palm tree between cherub and cherub. A cherub had 2 faces, so that the face of a man was toward the palm tree on one side, and the face of a young lion toward a palm tree on the other side, made on all the house, all around. From the floor to the space above the door and on the wall of the Hekal, cherubim and palm trees were carved. The doorposts of the Hekal were square, and the front of the set-apart place, the appearance of one was like the appearance of the other. The slaughter place was of wood, 3 cubits high, and its length 2 cubits, and its corners and its length and its sides were of wood. And he said to me, "This is the table that is before Yehovah." And the Hekal in the set-apart place had 2 doors, and each of the doors had 2 panels, 2 folding panels, 2 panels for one door and 2 panels for the other door. And the cherubim and the palm trees were carved on the doors of the Hekal, like those carved on the walls. And thick wood was on the front of the porch outside, and narrowed window frames and palm trees were on one side and on the other, on the sides of the porch and on the side rooms of the house, and thick wood.